Definition and explanation. This discussion stemmed from the definition of constructive superposition from what was taught in class by my teacher. Although this definition seems more or less like an explanation, I only took notes on what Sir explained. It reads crest on crest or trough on trough. Concern for me being a student and for other students would be, would this definition be applicable in the exams if they do ask or not? Would the definition be graded correct or incorrect? One may check the definition in the book being certified by the board which you study in. Some people may be convinced, others may have books that are too old that they're not convinced that it may be true or up to date. As they compare the definition, whether they could use it or not. Some still may not be convinced even after they have read from the book that is up to date. An idea may pop out of the mind that perhaps we could use the answer schemes of the previously held examinations of the same board which you study in. In my board, it's called past papers. Although checking the definitions in the marking schemes may be a great idea, the availability of finding them might be a tough process. It would require one person to go through most of the past papers just to find for a single definition. Question papers do not ask for definitions. It can be unfulfilling on the goal which you're looking for, which is to find a definition of the word based on the marking scheme, and you may not find that being asked in most question papers. As a last ditch effort, one may turn to the book or what they've been taught. What's been taught resembles more of an explanation than a definition. Though there are some exceptions that some of the definitions what's been taught may fit the role of a definition. In my case, the examples that I've shown you, the book seems to have a better definition than what's been taught. If you were to compare the two, the book describes it being when two waves reinforce to give increased amplitude at a point in space, whereas in the notes it describes it being crest on crest or trough on trough. You can see the notes trying to give a description of how it carries out the book's definition. As you can see, when two waves reinforce to give increased amplitude at a point in space, how does it carry out that process? How does the two waves reinforce each other to give an increased amplitude at that point? Here the two waves, yellow and blue, add together to give us a resultant of red, as you can see right here. Thus the resultant being an increased amplitude from the one before, following this definition right here. Thus given in the notes, we can see and observe that it fits the category of an explanation. Explaining in a word format that how can this be carried out and how could constructive interference be. How does it happen to be more exact? So crest on crest, that's how it happens. Thereby, given no drawing, you can explain it as a definition as it is. If they were to ask to give it in an explanation format rather than draw it. To add on to it, instead of putting crest on crest, it would be preferable, at least for me, it would make sense that crest upon crest or trough upon trough. Another important point before I leave the video at a close is that our approach to using past papers for definition. Before we even touch the past papers, we must at least have an overview or an idea of all the concepts in our syllabus before we even touch it. What I'm saying is to first go through the contents of the syllabus before you even touch the past papers, because to find the definition can take a long strenuous effort and time, which would really not be worth it. It's better to use your time by just learning and getting over the topics rather than just hindering the learning process of finishing the topic by just going over a little definition which you perhaps may not need. Let's say for the sake of argument you needed it. You could do that after you've finished getting over the topic, or finish at least getting over the syllabus, so you could at least do that later, because time is very important and it's not worth it to go over a simple definition, as it may hinder our learning process to get over the topic. Getting over the syllabus can help you, because after you finish the syllabus you can head on to the past papers, thus making the time more meaningful. Time would be meaningful as the past papers could have the definition or it could not have it, thus reducing the heaps of past papers that we have to go through just to find a definition. And imagine the multiplicity of times that we would have to do that if we were to repeat over the other definitions. So yeah, not worth it, and perhaps this approach would be better. And that's all.